All right, welcome to the On Your Side podcast. I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell.
Boy, we got a big deadline coming up right now.
It is a deadline 2 decades in the making.
I mean, come on, 2 decades, and people have been putting it off and putting it off.
Yeah.
Why? I don't need to get that. I'll do it another day.
And all of a sudden, here we are. We're talking about the Real ID, guys.
Yes.
So this is what you need if you want to get on an airplane to fly domestically.
Yeah,
right?
or if you want to get into a federal building, let's say, IRS, heaven forbid you have to go there.
I don't want to go there.
But I'm assuming like maybe even military bases. Not sure about that, but it's always good to have the Real ID just to avoid problems.
Yeah. Well, and again, this went back to legislation that was signed into law in 2005. Think back. If you can, go back to 2005. What was going on in 2005, right? George W. Bush was the president. He's the person who signed this into law. That's how far back we're talking.
I mean, that's 20 years. So you've had 20 years to get it. And, I just read an article not long ago that people up in New Jersey, I guess the DMV up in Jersey, that's up in your area. DMV is dropping the ball. I guess you can't make an appointment to get in.
Lots of lines. I think people are kind of scrambling in this very last minute. They're going, oh gosh, there's not going to be another delay, because we've had, I think, 4 or 5 official delays from the federal government saying, okay, this deadline isn't happening now. We're going to push it back. We're going to push it back. And that hasn't happened this time. I think it was kind of like the boy who cried wolf.
Right.
Nobody thought we were actually going to get to this day.
We'll have another postponement. I don't have to get it. How many stories have I done, and you as well, that, hey, this Real ID deadline's coming up and you got to get ready, and all of a sudden it's been postponed.
Yeah.
It's like you said, the boy that cried wolf.
Yeah.
People are tired of hearing it.
So I know you have yours. When did you get yours?
About a year ago.
Okay.
And I find it interesting because you and I were looking at our licenses. You have the Real ID.
Yep.
And your Real ID is Arizona. Mine's Arizona, but they don't look anything alike. Right?
No, ours look alike. Your wife's doesn't look like yours, right?
Yes.
Because ours, we both got ours a little while ago, and Cindy got hers more recently.
Yeah,
right?
she got hers like about a month ago.
And it looks a little different.
It looks totally different than yours and mine. So I don't know what's going on with that. I mean, are they changing it?
I think just a revamp, a redesign, but it's got that little star in the corner, and that's what we need.
Mm-hmm.
I got mine years ago when I lived in Rhode Island.
Wow.
So I've had mine for a whole bunch of years.
Yeah.
And there was like a little snafu in trying to get it because I was kind of on the early end.
Yeah.
And they didn't believe me that my marriage license was my actual legitimate hard copy of my marriage license.
Oh.
They wanted something from the state where I got married in, and I got married in Ohio, and those marriage licenses come from the county.
Oh.
So I had to convince
the
state of Rhode Island that the state of Ohio does things a little bit differently than they did in Rhode Island. We got it all ironed out. I have the Real ID, but yeah, there were little stories like this all over the place.
You brought up something interesting. I don't know if you wanted to get it back then, or of people who did, but explain that story briefly about being close to, like, New Yorkers are close to Canada, and they have.
So there are other kinds of licenses. The enhanced licenses, which is kind of like a step above the Real ID. People who live in New York can get these enhanced licenses, which is also federally compliant. So those are able to be used on airplanes.
But when it's enhanced, it's even stricter than the Real ID.
Correct. Yeah. You have to, you kind of take it one step further with proving who you are. Those don't have the little star, but you're still going to be able to fly with those. So I think that's where some of the confusion is coming too, because you can fly with a passport.
Right.
You don't technically have to have the Real ID. You can fly with all these other federally approved IDs. It's just a lot of information.
But I mean, not to dwell on this too much though, but that that enhanced Real ID that gets you from New York over to Canada. It doesn't have the star, so you and I were kind of talking. Does every TSA agent, are they going to be aware of these different licenses?
Every single variation of everything.
Different variation, yeah.
I mean, I've tried to figure out, talking with different TSA people, what is it going to look like on May 7th, right?
Right.
And everybody says, we're ready. We have prepared for this for a long time. We know what we're looking for. We've got all the systems in place.
Yeah.
We're going to be good. But they do expect there might be a little delay in the process in terms of like getting through the line on that day,
Yeah.
just because there might be some confusion among flyers.
I know there's going to be a lot of people showing up and they think that, well, I'll just get it later, or I'll just talk to the TSA and I'll convince them. It's going to be a problem.
Yeah, don't do that.
I mean, these are the same people. I went to a concert recently, and the females who had the purses, they had to have a clear see-through, a certain size. And this one lady, fighting up and down that, she didn't have one of those, and it's clearly marked the mile back that we were waiting in line. You have to have this. But for whatever reason, she stood in line and got to and then,
and had to go back
and had a problem. It's the same thing with these real IDs. People, I don't know what they're going to do. And you're going to be out at the airport, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, we're going to have some horror stories out there.
We'll see. Or maybe it'll be smooth sailing. Who knows?
We hope so. Hey, today we're talking to Truman Kain. He is a security researcher over at Huntress. That's a cybersecurity firm. How are you today, Truman?
I'm doing well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Hey, do you have your real ID?
I'd have to kill you if I told you. No, I'm just kidding. I'm planning to use my passport for my next travel, so I'm working on it.
Okay, and you're joining us from where?
I'm in Boise, Idaho.
Boise, Idaho. Okay, so do you even know what it looks like up there, the real ID for that state?
Well, I know there's a star in the right corner, so that's as much as I know right now.
Okay, listen, I'm gonna put
He's working on it. He's working on it.
I'm gonna put you on the hot seat.
I decided I got my passport. I'm not gonna worry. Passport's good for another few years. That's the way I'm looking at it.
And I think that's what a lot of people are kind of relying on. If you do have the passport, it's like, well, whatever, I can pack that with me.
Mm-hmm. But if you don't have a passport, you better, get with it.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Truman, we're going to check back with you sometime down the road. I want to see if you get this real ID, if you're just going to say, look, I don't feel like paying the extra expense. It's only like, what, $25? $25, yeah. So, Truman, listen, you're the expert in the cybersecurity field, and whenever there's something new or there's a hot topic that's out in the news, scammers are the first one to jump on that and kind of do what they can to whittle their way into people's pockets and wallets. So when it comes to the real ID, what is Huntress and what did you find these scammers are now doing to rip people off?
Yep. As you mentioned, scammers, they're opportunistic. They're going to look back at, for example, there was Medicare open enrollment. There was a IRS $1,400 payment. When these things happen, and now this most recently, a real ID, deadline looming, we see scammers taking advantage of the fact that this is going to be top of mind for people and that they're going to be thinking about it. And so that incoming communication, like what we're seeing here, emails, text messages, even phone calls in some cases, are going to kind of feel right at home. You might be expecting to see something like that if you're not aware that these agencies are not going to reach out to you. It is a scam when you get a text message, email, or phone call asking you to provide information, or like what we're seeing in this case is scammers saying that, hey, this deadline's coming up. Because you haven't gotten your real ID, you need to pay a fine. Or, hey, your personal information is not accurate. You need to update it to make sure you're going to be able to travel with this upcoming deadline. They'll point you to a link to a fake DMV website or like a Department of Homeland Security website, and they'll either collect payments or they'll ask for your personal information. And from there, again, it's a kind of financial fraud, identity theft, things of that nature is basically what we're seeing.
And these are coming through both text and emails?
Text, emails, and in some cases, phone calls.
Wow.
Do you have any sense of how many people are actually falling for this?
Enough that scammers are continuing to push these out. It's not yet as prolific as the toll road scams that I'm sure you've both got plenty of text messages about. But it's hard to quantify at scale. It's happening all over the U.S. There's reports of a number of different states, and there's even people going on record saying, yeah, I paid money. And maybe sometimes it's scam light where, you're paying money and then the website actually is sending you something, that are sending you some forms you could have got on the DMV or MVD's website. So, and then there's other more insidious scams where it turns into kind of identity theft or repeated charges. In fact, one of the tactics that we see happen a lot recently is you'll put in a card number, and then the scam website will say, oh, that card didn't work. You need to try another one. And they'll just keep doing that. There's no end. the card's never going to work. And by the time it clicks, you've entered in 5 or 6 card numbers.
That's a good one.
Mm.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean,
that just grabs everything, and they don't even have to use any fancy software or anything.
Right.
You're just literally handing it to them.
You're just giving them the digital information. I've seen on some published reports where people are getting contacted, whether it's through emails or a phone call, saying, listen, I'm with whatever DMV, and this is a shortcut for you, and we're reaching out so you don't have to wait in line. If you want to wait in line, you can do that, but I'm here now. If you want to go ahead and give me all your information, and look, I'm not a scammer, so I'm not as precise and convincing as they are, but they wind up asking for all your physical information, your DOB, your SOCH, because, of course, they're going to get that real ID and they're going to forward it to you. Not. But what happens then? What can a scammer do when they do get that information and they do dupe somebody into revealing it?
Yeah, so they can turn this into identity theft. A lot of times what happens with scammers is they're typically going to kind of take the data broker approach, or basically turn this data around, sell it on the dark web. That's the easiest way. The people that are doing the phishing are not necessarily going to be doing the applying for new cards, and like identity theft is kind of in the middle. You got to get the personal information, then you commit the identity theft, which is turning it into getting a loan in someone else's name, or applying for credit cards and things like that. But somewhere in the middle is kind of initial access brokering, which is like, hey, I've got these credentials, I've got this access. Now someone else do what you want with it. So on the dark web, those people that do the phishing will typically end up bundling that up and selling it either as a big package with, hey, this is thousands of people's information, or maybe just a few at a time, to someone or a group who is then going to take it and again apply for loans, credit cards.
Yeah, so these
turn
phone
into, again, financial fraud, selling the data on the dark web. That's kind of what we're doing.
These phone calls and text messages, then they're coming from people who are just simply fishing for the information, and they're not going to turn around and actually use it, unscrupulously, but they're going to sell it. That's amazing.
Well, and it kind of speaks to the fact that you might not know for a long time that you are the victim of this, right? Like if you think you've done everything right and you did get some random form in the mail because they held up their end of the bargain on this, transaction, you don't even have any idea that your stuff has been released or stolen or sold. And then all of a sudden, who knows how long after?
Right.
Now it's coming up to haunt you, and you're trying to rack your brain like, when did I click on a bad link? When did I enter this information?
It all depends on how good the fisher is, because if he gets, say, 1,000 people like in a week and packages it up like Truman said, he can send it out. But if he's lazy and you
just got to get Gary Harper once, and then it's off to the races, right?
That is amazing. Any other scams out there that going along with a real ID and with people posing as MVD or whatever and contacting? Anything else that we need to look out for?
That's mainly it. Is like, the buzzword menu are like real ID compliance or expedited, things like that. Like, again, they're trying to hit you with that sense of urgency. Like, the deadline's looming. You may have travel booked, and you're just hoping for a gift from God that you will be able to make that travel you're trying to hit. And when you see that text come in where it's like, hey, we can get this done for you quickly, and you won't even have to go into the MVD. People are going to jump at the chance, and that's what I think attackers are hoping for. So it's really just anything that's offering to kind of expedite, or anything that's telling you need to pay a fine because you haven't gotten your real ID yet. Those are kind of what you want to look out for.
Okay, so we're not going to click on any links that come in through text messages or emails, because we know that is a big no-no. Are there other things we can do to protect ourselves?
Well, the one thing I think the biggest thing specifically for the real ID scam to remember is that there's two. There are two major things. Whenever requests are coming in, like you did not solicit the text message, the email, it's an unsolicited communication asking you for personal information, that is always a major red flag. This kind of transcends just the real ID scam, but any kind of governmental related scams like IRS or whatever it may be. They're just not going to reach out to you unsolicited and ask you for information or to pay anything. So that's one. Two, specifically to the real ID scam, is that you're going to need to go into the MVD in person with extremely rare exceptions. In fact, I wouldn't even think, oh, maybe I'm one of the rare exceptions. I would just assume you're going to need to go into an office, the government office, at some point in the process. Even if you were able to do some of the application online, you're going to need to get face-to-face at some point for verification of your documents. So if someone or some group is claiming that you don't have to, again, major red flag.
And think about all of that important stuff. I mean, it's kind of the holy grail. You are proving who you are.
I mean,
right?
everything.
It is all of the stuff.
I mean, weight, hair color, phone number, address,
everything.
DOB. Oh, that is scary. All right, listen, I hope people have learned. And look, May 7th is coming up. I hope we've educated them that if you don't have your real ID, you haven't upgraded to it, but you have a passport, that will suffice.
Yeah, and a host of other things. There are a lot. There's a whole bunch of information available, through TSA.gov about what's accepted at those checkpoints.
Right. It's a good place to go visit. Truman, thanks so much for being on the On Your Side podcast. If people want to know more about you or Huntress, where can they go? Any websites or anything?
HuntressLabs.com. That's where I'd send them.
All right. Appreciate it. Well, listen, enjoy yourself up in Boise, and we're going to circle back with you to see when you get your real ID, because somewhere down the road, I think you probably will.
I'm going to need it. I'm going to get right on it after this call.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
On the clock.
Yeah. All right, Truman. Thanks so much for being on the On Your Side podcast. Have a great day.
Thank you both.
The On Your Side podcast is produced by Brad Denny. Our audio engineer and editor is Todd Martin. Segment producer is Colin Stanton. And I'm Gary Harper.
And I'm Susan Campbell. If you have a problem you can't resolve, maybe we can. Send us a message through azfamily.com or our AZ Family mobile app. Look for the On Your Side section and leave us a message. Thanks so much for listening to the On Your Side podcast. And if you like it, leave us a review. We'll see you next week.
On Your Side is on Good Morning Arizona every weekday morning at 6:45 and 7 o'clock. And every weekday evening on Good Evening Arizona at 4 and 5 o'clock. You can also catch it on Arizona's Family News at 9 on 3TV every weeknight.